inserting data into database. In this video, we're going to create the POST service to add new data to the database. POST represents the letter C in the CRUD acronym, and it is one of the HTTP request APIs used to perform data insert. The POST API is usually associated with one URL endpoint. The URL doesn't require an ID because we're only adding data to the database. So let's go and create the POST service to add data to our database. Okay, so here in the IDE, just make sure you open the provider.service.ts file and make sure both the apps are running, the backend and front end. So in this file, we're going to add a new function right down below after this get function. I'll call it POST. This is for add a new record, and I'll call it add provider, singular. I'm going to pass to this function a new provider of type provider class, and it's going to return an observable of any, just like the get. And so we're going to pass to this function the http.post method. We're passing two things. The first is the URL, the API, and then the payload in this case is the new provider. Okay, so that is all we need for this part. So let's go and open the providers, add providers, and both of these providers file component and the HTML. Now, if you have not completed the previous validation part in the previous section, you can go ahead and copy or get a copy from this in the source. It should be available. I've made all the validation already, so this should be good to go. Well, and we add one more here eventually, but for now, that should be good. Now, for this component, I'm going to refactor this quite a bit. First, we don't need this line 4 anymore because the data will be coming in from the database, okay? So we're not going to get this temporary data source. So we can remove that. And then in its place, I'm going to create a new object, same providers, plural. It's going to be of type provider class, and it's going to be an empty list, okay? Eventually, I'm going to fill this up with the actual data from the database. Okay, so now let's inject that service in here before we forget. And the constructor, inject the private provider, private provider service of type provider service. Okay, so we got it injected, and then now I'm going to remove this and use a function. Okay, it's kind of ugly here, so that's going to copy everything here. We'll cut everything for lines 20 and 36 and put it to a function right at the bottom down here. Okay, some spaces. This will be build form controls. I'll just use a similar name, build form controls, and then just paste it right in there. Okay, and then in its place, make sure we invoke that right above here. We just say this build form controls. Okay, and same thing. I'm going to move this into a new function to generate the ID, and also this is build an object. So let's copy this to build a new ID. So right below here, I use a function. Just say generate new ID. I'll call it get new ID, the name of the function, and paste it right in here. Now the provider will be this.providers, okay? And then when we find the ID, then we're not going to break it. We're just going to return that ID. Okay. Now notice the limit is pretty tiny, right? So in a real application, you want to, find a way to automate that so it keeps growing as you add more and more user. But for now, there's a limit here. Okay, so then we're good here, and then we turn that function right to this ID here. So this dot get ID. Okay, and then the same thing, lines 32 through lines 48. I'm going to cut that out and add into another function. Put right in here, line 47. Put a comment says build new provider object. And the reason why I do this is because it's not in that same shape I want, right? That's what we need. The company is an object for the company, but our forms is not in that format. Otherwise, I would just say equal to the form control and we're done. But we need to build that here. Okay, so that's done. So we validated the new ID. We also need to validate the email because email is also not allowed to have duplicates. Okay, you can delete line 33. We don't need that anymore. We're not going to push it to the array. So I'll have a new function here to say check for duplicate emails. And I'll just say is a valid email. And then I'm going to get the email from this form, provider's form. You can use two methods. You can use the get function and get the email that value like this, okay? Or you can use the controls dot email dot that, okay? So either way, I just use the other one. It's a little bit shorter, but either way will get you the value back. Well, almost the same here. Okay, and then you can check inside the list. So again, there's a couple ways to do it. You can do the way I did here, using the index and loop through that and find it, or you can use another way. So I'll show you a different way to do it using the filter. You can also use the sum function or a couple of ways to do it. So I'm going to say if the this provider's filter, okay, filter that every element using arrows, element.company.email, if that equals this email, if that is true and it comes back, I check the length of that array. If it's more than 0, then that means it's duplicates. Okay, so therefore I would just say this, I have an error message, error, email error is true. Okay, otherwise, and then we'll return true. Otherwise, returns false. Okay, and so let's create this error message up here. Email error is false, and also create an email error message. I'll just do something kind of vague. You don't want to give away too much. You don't want to say, you know, email is duplicate not allowed. If you do that, you give away the information. So be something like a vague response, something like maybe like invalid email, try again, or contact us, something like that. Okay, so got that, and then we need to check it when we submit the form. We need to the form comes into here, print that out, and then we need to check it. Or we need to build that provider first. So build a provider. Build provider. We build that, and then we check for the email address. Okay, so if is email valid, is valid email. If that is true, then we continue. Let's see if it's true. If it returns true, then there's an error. Yeah, so if it's not valid, I should call it differently. I don't like it here, so I'm going to say is invalid email. Okay, it's just hard to read. I'm going to go back and change it to say invalid. Is invalid email. Okay, if it's invalid, it will say true. Otherwise, we get false, right? So we say if it's not invalid email, right? Yeah, confusing. If it's true, that it's invalid. Yeah, if it's not, is invalid, then we can say, we can go ahead and proceed there. Okay, yeah, confusing here. All right, so we can go and then send this over to the service provider. So provider service dot add provider. We pass in this provider, and then not that one. And then we need to subscribe to it. Okay, we'll receive the data back, and then we'll also check for the error message. We'll just log the error to the console. Okay, and so inside here, we just turn on the submit here to be true. We move that inside here, and we also say this email error is also now false. Okay, so that's it for that one. And then I'm gonna clean up here a little bit. Okay, then we need to do two things. One is display this error message. So let's open the template and we'll put the message right below this add successfully. So right line 15 here. Let's add another tag. I call it P tab. Add the same class as the one above it, MT0. We'll put alert and alert danger, kind of red background, and we'll check, put the error here, say error, and then we'll just display the error message. Okay, and then we'll do the ngIf just to make sure we check that first. If it's error, email error, then we display that message there. Okay, and then now we need to do one more thing in the back end. Okay, so go back to the back end and open the API under the schemas and the provider schemas. Okay, so previously when we built this app, we did not include the ID in the provider schema. So we need to include that now so we can check. Okay, so just duplicate the line and then add that as an ID. The type will be of number. It's required and we'll make it unique as just like the email here. Okay, so we'll just say unique true. Okay, that's it for the backend. And then now I think we are ready to go and give this a spin. So let's go to the browser. All right, here we go. Refresh it just in case. And then before I do this, let's go to the Mongo database. I want to grab an email address. So the first one here is fine. Let's grab her email. I want to copy that in memory and back to the form and paste it right in here. I want to make sure the email is validated. So let's go here, phone number. Let's put some space here. Okay, so let's click submit, add provider, and then we didn't get the error. Okay, let's see why. Let's check the F12 first. I got an error here. What does it say? Find index of undefined. Oh, maybe we did not invoke that function yet. So yeah, let's see. When initially we built the controls, yeah, we did not invoke that the function. We did not fill this providers at all. So I need to do one thing right here. I'm going to copy the same function from the providers component. Okay, so if you open the providers component, this load function here, just copy that and then go back and we'll paste it right in here. We're going to use the same function. I just put right below here. We need to load the data from the database. That's what I need to do. So put it here. Get all records from database. And then we'll populate that into the this providers object. And so we can use it when we check that. Otherwise, it didn't work. And then we initialize it. We can also call this load data. Okay, a lot of things, right? So I have to go back and do it again. My form is now gone. Yeah. It's a lot of repetition stuff. Okay, copy that again. One more time. Okay. All right, so here we go. And there's the message, right? It just said invalid here. Try again. So it does work. Okay, at least we know that. So let's go and change that to something unique. I'll put here Okay, so let's go and then add that provider. All right, we got it, and check the providers list. And there it is. So we are good to go. Next, we'll create the API for updating existing data in the database using the HTTP put request.